Star Trek Into Darkness countdown continues with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Obviously not The Final Frontier because, you know, there's like 6 more movies, and then some, and then more. Okay, so Star Trek The Final Frontier, this movie's from 1989, featuring the original series cast. This one I know is not high on most people's lists in terms of favorites. I know even yesterday when I said I was watching it on Facebook, I got some comments of like, you know, you poor soul, what did you do wrong, and stuff like that, or the book was better. That's from my buddy Septimus. And so, but, you know, I don't mind it. It's funny watching it, rewatching it this time and realizing it came out in '89, and again, this is one, I'm sure I saw it in the theater. I have a vague memory of watching this one in the theater. But only vague. But rewatching it now, I understand why I didn't really understand it. But one thing, and I enjoy it, to be honest, now, I enjoy it. And I also, like, you know, it's not usually going to be the first one of the films that I'm going to be drawn to watch, but I still enjoy it. It's a different flavor. It goes spiritual and philosophical. And spiritual is something that Star Trek, to be honest, they just avoid. Like, it's not even really talked about barely at all. I'm doing my Next Generation rewatch, and I think it's come up maybe twice, and I'm in season 6. It's like there's always this sort of respecting other cultures' belief systems, but in terms of, like, the humans, they just don't even really talk about anything. And this one also has a theme of sort of non-traditional families, which I actually always am a fan of. So, but it's weird because when it starts off, it's got this sort of Mad Max feel to it, particularly Thunderdome, and I'm like, really? And I'm trying to remember if it's around the same time. I can't remember when Thunderdome came out, but it feels like it would be similar. I think that was still the 80s. I'm trying to remember. It's hard. I don't know. I should have looked it up. Anyway, so there's a sort of desolation and realness and a bit more gritty. We do get like little bits of that. Star Trek 3 had some moments of that too, which I was surprised at, being in places like bars and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's pretty unusual for Trek. It is. You know, usually they're just on ships and exploring stuff, so to be at a bar is kind of like, I just sound like I was from Nova Scotia there. Anyway, so, but, you know, and I don't know, this one, it is a bit of a challenge, because it goes through this sort of more spiritual, philosophical, very emotionally driven, but not from the main character's perspective. It's hard to dink your way into, like, who are you rooting for? You know, is the character an actual villain? I don't know. Kind of, sort of. Is it? I don't know. So it's a little strange. It doesn't fall neatly into a pattern, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Like, sure, with a film like Wrath of Khan, it's like you love to hate Khan. Like, you love to hate Khan. He's a great villain. But with this film, it's different. That doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's different. It's more confusing, it's more gray, you know, and it is a little more, and also the sort of philosophical elements to it, questioning, pushing people, helping people by pushing people. That's pretty, you know, that's pretty controversial. So, and again, not very Trek too, you know. So those elements are all pretty squishy. So I don't know. So that I can understand people having challenges with it. Myself, there's actually still lots of stuff that I enjoy, especially between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. They really play them up in terms of a trio with a lot of time together. But on the other hand, they do feel very separate from the rest of the crew in this one. Not just sort of situationally, but also, you know, not philosophically, but sort of strength-wise or something. So that I didn't quite like, but I love the time that they have together. And it's weird, because this one actually has a fair amount of comedy in it, but it doesn't always read that well. Some of it's great, some of it I was howling at, like, without question, but some of it not quite as much. So, and I don't know, like, again, I know it very well. I was actually happy it played in my new Blu-ray player, because I think I tried to watch it around Christmas and didn't, it was skipping in my DVD player. That was random. That was boring. I wish I knew how to edit stuff, because, I don't know, nobody really cares about that, I'm sure. Anyway, so, and one of the other things I noticed with this one is that the ship on this one, because they got a new ship at the end of Star Trek 4, and it looks a lot like the 2009 Star Trek ship. The Enterprise. I know what it's called. I know it's the Enterprise. So I thought that was really interesting. Lots of white lighting, underlit, stuff like that, and pretty prominent. They're not on the ship a lot, though. So, anyway, so it's weird. The experience of watching it this time was a little weird, because I really understood why I didn't really get it, why it didn't really strike a chord with me, why when I watched it when I was younger it was just more confusing, because it is confusing. You know, it's not, I don't mean to say it's, like, it's more gray, it's more philosophical, it's harder to take a side, and you have to think about it, and then there are some things, some you know, conventions and stuff like that that they use that are could definitely be confusing, like for when I was younger. And they do, I would have to say, they do break at least one rule, and I was a little surprised at that in terms of the characters, to create some mystery, and you know, some conflict and some tension. And I was really surprised, and I, even rewatching it now, it's kind of like, I think it's going to go this way, but I can't quite remember. Like, it really feels like it's going to be this, but it was like, that can't be. Like, that's just too crazy. And then, like, yeah, it is. So, it is too crazy. So, I don't know. And this one does it really, one of the reasons why I'm being very vague about it, in case anyone hasn't seen it, is that actually the mystery element is very strong. Oh, it does break two rules. Actually, there were two rules. But one of the rules, it's a science rule, and you know, they broke it in 4. So it's just like, you know, it's a pretty traditional Star Trek. Nobody's ever done that before. Kind of rule. So that's, I don't even say that that's breaking it, because that's actually pretty normal for them. But one of the other ones was more, it was actually, that's pretty surprising. That nobody knew that kind of thing. So anyway, so I can enjoy it and I can appreciate it, and it actually made me think, and I actually I like films that are more philosophical. I just don't really expect it from Trek, you know. So, and it's sort of more high level, like philosophical thinking and perspective on the world and those kinds of things, along with the spiritual stuff, which kind of makes sense considering it's, you know, it's kind of thematic for Easter. I mean, you can't really see my Easter bunny. That's my Easter bunny, my zombie Easter bunny. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. Belated Happy Passover to those who celebrate. Yeah, so Star Trek 5, I enjoyed it. I did. It's, again, it's rarely the one I'm going to pull off the shelf, but I don't mind watching it, and I enjoyed watching it here. And mostly for me, honestly, some of the stuff with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, really, really wonderful. I wish everyone else had a bit more. Uhura was actually, she has a pretty unique part in this one, and I like it. I remember being confused by it when I was a kid, though. I was kind of like, what's Uhura doing? But, you know, so that was a bit different. And Chekhov does have some good stuff, and everyone does have a little bit, but it's just, it's not as, I guess also after Star Trek 4, where everyone's parts, like, you know, were really strong. That's when I'm like, oh, you know, I wish we got something a little more from each of them, but I know that that's a tall order. So I'll be very curious to head into the Undiscovered Country. That's actually with the next one with Star Trek 6, because that's actually one of my favorites, without question. That one I could watch anytime. Anytime. It's an extraordinary film. So this one's still good entry. Don't mind watching it, so there we go. Alright! Almost halfway through. Thanks so much for watching. Ooh.